joy and experience that you gain from doing this kind of stuff. There's different. I classify EVPs differently because I have found that there's whispers. There are direct voices. You can tell that's male or female.
Mm-hmm.
There's voices that sound like they are underwater.
Yeah.
And there's voices that go from kind of like a normal voice to a high voice that ends out in a whisper. I mean, it's so strange how that can happen, but most of the time you can tell if it's male, female, or if it's a child or an adult.
Right. Yeah, I always found that interesting that it sounded like they were always whispering.
Has anybody ever done like a paranormal investigation around Ground Zero, the Twin Towers area?
Oh, good question. Do you know of that? If anybody's done the WTC post 9/11?
I don't even know if they would allow that.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That I have to believe that would probably be one of the most traumatic EVPs you would ever hear. I'm saying
that residual energy.
Yeah, that left such a negative residual energy there. I mean, it probably hovers over that place like a storm cloud. It was just so traumatic and horrifying.
I think the only way to get any kind of EVP out of that place is from a magnetometer. And what that does is there's no microphones. It's just what it is picking up the electromagnetic field in the voices and storing that on a recording device. You can sit there and scream at it and yell at it, and it won't hear your voice, but yet it will pick up an EVP. And
wow, that'd be cool.
I've never heard of such a thing. That's cool.
Either.
We're learning stuff.
We have one that we use every so often when the time is just right, and by saying that I mean to where you don't think things are happening, or if it's even too loud of a place. It's like trying to record, trying to get an EVP out of World Trade Center in New York, with open 24 hours a day. It's going to be difficult to even discern what's what on that.
Could be groundbreaking. We need to be the first.
Right. Well, gosh, it's like you said. There's so many people around there, anyways. You wouldn't know what you were getting. I mean, New York City, that's the city that never sleeps. So
I thought that was Vegas.
Now there's a lot of a friend of mine, Barry Taffy, is a world-renowned parapsychologist, and he's been working on parapsychology for these years, from UCLA and everything like that. He was part of the experiments over there. But he was stating also, and it does make a lot of sense, that a lot of times that the people themselves who do suffer from, let's say, migraines, seizures, any sort of grand mal type thing happening in their brain, in the circuitry in their brain, there's a lot of times where they are actually the ones that are causing all of the paranormal activity that's happening. It's kind of like, I hate to use this as an example, but it's the only example I can really come up with. In that old movie, Carrie, with Sissy Spacek, when she was getting frustrated and just kind of angry and everything, and things go flying across the room.
Telekinesis.
Well, that's kind of like what can be a reality at that point, because they have done a lot of experimentation where people with those problems were able to have some sort of telekinetic power.
Oh boy, I think we lost them. Well, we were good for about 20 minutes. I don't know if you can hear me, Frank, but we lost you.
Probably have to do a reset call.
Yeah. My computer's all tripped out too. I don't even know if I can play bumper music to take us into a break right now, because this is got something going on here, man. Check this out. So we are falling apart at the seams, ladies and gentlemen.
I think we've drawn in some residual. This used to be a
Monday used to be okay?
No, it used to be a morgue, right?
A morgue, yeah. So we got some bad energy, got some bad mojo.
Okay. I think we're getting him back there. Hello, Frank.
Yeah, it's me.
Sorry, buddy. I don't know if that was us.
Hey, no problem.
Or probably, but anyways, you were saying. I hope you remember what you were saying at the time. we just go right back into it.
I was talking up in the store. I don't even know when it cut off. So, what was the last thing you heard?
Well, it kind of went in and out, and then it went. So that's if you remember if you remember saying that
about a minute ago.
Yeah, it's about a minute ago.
Okay, well then let me see. Hopefully it won't cut out again. But I was talking about people with problems.
Oh,
in
the carry thing,
the circuitry.
Yeah. Okay.
In their brain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where they are the acting agent that causes a lot of the paranormal activity themselves.
Mm-hmm. I've often wondered that about myself before. If that stuff doesn't happen to me all that often anymore, here and there, but I used to wonder that if it was me. Like if some people are just kind of lightning rods for that, for whatever reason. Because I'm a little high-strung.
I kind of tend to I'm swaying towards agreeing with Barry on this, that there is instances where it can be caused by the people that they don't even know that they're causing it, and if it does, it like you say, it makes you wonder, is that me? And then the confusion sets in, and then you don't know if you're going crazy or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's where a lot of the validation of paranormal investigations come in. If you can, let them know that, hey, you're not going crazy. You did hear voices. Here, we got this voice on recording. And they are accustomed to that sound. They know, yeah, that's the voice I heard. You know what I mean? And it just... It'll validate that. It'll make them feel at ease that, yeah, okay, I'm not going crazy. Okay, what do I got to do now? Okay, I got this stuff going on. Well, back to what Amy was saying, if it's residual energy, I don't understand how you can just get rid of residual energy like that. Or if it's a spirit, there's got to be contact. There's got to be eye contact. There's got to be some sort of person-to-person sort of communication, whether it just be visual, a wave, a point, them pointing at you or something. It's pretty scary when you look up and you see somebody that's not there pointing at you, looking right at you, and then dissipate in front of your eyes,
Yeah, that would be. I've never had anything that scared me, so to speak, like that. I had that visitation from a grandmother. My wife also and her sister had a visitation from their grandmother, and we've talked about that a little bit. But that was a pleasant, harmonious type of experience for me. But yeah, the old hovering at the end of the bed thing, staring at you with a blank look, that would not be good for me.
Yeah, it's kind of startling, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you ever? How often is it that? You get a lot of EVPs, man. I've heard 100 of your EVP samples. How often is it that you hear it audibly with your own ears versus just picking it up on EVP?
That's a rarity, because we've had some instances where we're asking questions and we'll hear something, and we'll ask each other, "Did you just hear that?" It sounded like you said yes or no. But we have heard that. It's rarity. The little kid that was in the closet, when he says, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
My God,
Yeah.
Who am I? Who are you? You know what I mean? It's just so strange. And then, it's kind of strange also, because a lot of the TV programs, they'll say, "Yeah, we got this EVP. We'll play it. It sounds like, did you hear that? It says close the door."
Right.
It's like, that's not what it sounds like.
I heard it in Spanish.
Right.
Yeah, that's your thumb scraping against the microphone. Why are you holding your recorder? You're supposed to set that sucker down and let it record. If you run your finger on it, that recorder will pick up your thumbprint on the surface of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll
So-
see it at the bottom of the screen. It's supposed to be basically translating what you just heard. And I'll be watching with my young boys, and they'll be like, I didn't hear that, Dad. I didn't hear that at all.
Right.
It was just like what you just said. I heard, and they're like, see, it's
Yeah.
saying, she killed me on a Saturday. Yeah, and well, that's not what I heard.
Right.
But your translations, like on that little film that I posted on the RabbitHole site on Facebook, it's very clear. You have to turn the audio up quite a bit, but they are very clear and good, and you translate them. And I think that's important, but when you translate them, you're like, that's exactly what that thing said.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's such a such a kick in the ass that to like I'm doing right now. I'm going through audio from last week. I'm on my last recorder. We had 6 recorders going and 4 DVR cameras going, and so I'm still haven't hit that yet. But I just got through all the recordings, and in 4 of the recorders we didn't get anything. On this last recorder I'm going through right now, I'm trying to figure out what I'm hearing because there is a female voice in there, and it's not Lori.
Right.
And I'm trying to decipher what it's saying because there was no questions being asked. They're just saying stuff, And it's like some of the EVP that you played last time that I was on, like We Are Here. I mean, can they see me? I mean, they're asking questions to themselves about us, if we can see them or if we can hear them.
Right.
And it's phenomenal. I love EVP work. It's just crazy.
I think it's always interesting too that you'll see, like in certain footage, they see like a figure or a shadow, but on camera they capture like a little light orb. So there's obviously some sort of thing that, or I guess
a veil or something.
Yeah, so it's like our brain only sees a certain.
It translates differently.
Right, it translates in a different form. And when you have like an IR camera, you're able to see the orb part of it as opposed to the full figure apparition floating on by, and I always found that quite interesting.
That might explain the EVPs too, why some of them sound like they're whispering. They may be speaking just how we are now, but it just translates differently. I mean, who knows? It's like Frank said. This is what Frank does, and he's like, "Dude, I don't know, man. It's what you don't. There's no definitive answer to any of this, really."
Well, if you have this equipment that is able to sort of draw out the energy, obviously this is in its infancy, I'm sure, this type of technology. So I'm assuming that we're going to be able to start seeing more visual pieces of technology that we'll see in more light spectrums and record it to where we can see deeper into those energies.
Yeah, well, you've got your it depends on the camera itself. I mean, I use IR and ultraviolet on my video camera, and I've got a pretty nice little setup. I've got my IR light on the camera itself, and I got 2 separate IR lights left and right, and then I've got a UV light on the top, and that covers those areas pretty well. And I have yet to see an apparition on that camera itself. Now we've gotten at the Yuma Pump House. We had a camera upstairs loft looking down towards the living room. And our DVR camera caught a shadow just appearing and moving down towards underneath the camera, and then it just disappears. And you could see the head and shoulders, the outline, the shape, and it's just a dark mass that just moves down out of frame from the top to the bottom. A full spectrum camera, you're taking care of everything on that, but they're damn expensive, and not too many people can afford those. And the FLIRs, they register heat, hot and cold, in pictures. So, everything all together, it can be pretty expensive, and But I'm sure it's well worth it to the people that can afford that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, the people who have the backing of the Travel Channel or Discovery Channel or something like that. Financial backing's always good. But for the independent folks, man, that's a big chunk of change for us.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was pricing for cameras, man. You're talking $2,000 to $7,000-$8,000 just for a camera. I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
That's
right. With no guarantees it's even going to. With no
like $1,500 to $2,000.
Right, and there's no guarantees you're even going to get anything significant on that particular piece of equipment if it's a kind of an experimental phase. So, at that Lee Motel, you guys had a particularly nasty spirit there. It seemed like there was one that said "F Lori." I mean, it was person specific. It was a male voice. Now, did you guys were you able to determine who that was?
No.
Like through history or anything?
A lot of times there's more than one in there, and there's really no way of telling unless they identify themselves, and they're pretty secretive.
Yeah.
They don't want to divulge any information like, what it's like over there, or how they're feeling, if it's hot or cold, or if there's anybody else around. But we did record the two female spirits talking amongst themselves, and then two male spirits talking among themselves as well. And it's just phenomenal, because I don't understand how people cannot. Well, I can understand how they can't believe it, but we recorded two females talking to themselves about us being there, if we can see them or not, but there's nobody there.
Right. Right.
Where do these voices come from? I mean, the recorders are not designed to pick up frequencies, different, television or radio frequencies. They're to record what is being there, even at lower frequencies than human hearing.
Right.
So, hey, let me put Lauren on the line, and she can tell you about that kind of stuff. All right.
Excellent. Sounds good.
All right, here she is.
All right, thanks. So we're talking with, we were just speaking with Frank Madrid. He's the founder of the Arizona Paranormal Research Society, and right now on the phone with us is Lori Marshall, who is a co-founder of the task
Hey, John.
force. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. We talked about some really interesting stuff the other night. Now, I was wondering if you could tell the listeners kind of what we talk about. Like, for instance, you were talking about how matter under the ground could impact the site. For instance, if the area is high in quartz or other things. I found that fascinating, and that's an aspect of it I've never really looked at before. Could you help us understand that a little better?
Yeah, we have a book that we reference sometimes. It's a book of the geology of Arizona. And when we go out to, 9 times out of 10, before we go out to an investigation, we'll research the area and see what kind of minerals are in the soil or underneath the property that we're going to be investigating, because there are some minerals that have recording qualities, and that's how you end up getting the residual hauntings. And it's things like quartz, silica, limestone, things like that. And those have recording qualities, like the silica they use for memory in computer chips.
Right.
Linda brought this up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a guest on last week that we were talking to about, the sightings of the dogmen and stuff like that, and she kind of brought that up. I've just never heard of it referred to on the spiritual level for paranormal investigators who investigate ghosts, and it makes perfect sense. You're right, silica, that type of material is used for computers and memory and that kind of thing. So there's got to be something to that, for sure.
Yeah, and and that's where the whole residual haunting comes from. Cause, what it does is it stores the energy. It stores an event. It stores something that was either, it could be a very positive event or it could be a very negative event. And because our energy, just from our living bodies is so strong, the analogy, because I teach, sometimes I'll give classes to people that want to learn more, and what I tell them is that. When scenario, if you walk into a room where two people just had this, huge argument or there's a lot of tension in the air, you walk in and you're like, whoa, boy, is the energy thick in here? Boy, it feels tense. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because that's the energy that those two people had just finished, emitting towards each other when they were having this argument. And so whether it's a good event or a negative event, sometimes if the conditions are right, that energy, those emotions can be stored in those minerals that are in the ground or in the area. So what I tell people is that this is what contributes to a residual haunting. It's just a recording like a tape playing over and over again. It's not really there. There is no consciousness. It'll never try to interact with you. It won't look at you. It won't try to communicate because even though you see it, it's not technically there. Mm-hmm. It's just a recording of something that happened at that moment in time that under the right atmospheric conditions was stored in these minerals. Mm-hmm. And the reason people are seeing it is because the atmospheric conditions are right to where that recording is released. Okay. And that's all it is.
Now, you guys are located in Arizona. Arizona has a very storied history. I mean, there are some real significant events that have happened in the history of Arizona. Have you ever been to Tombstone and run an investigation, like OK Corral, that kind of thing?
Yeah. We went to Tucson when we first started out, and I mean, you can just feel it in the air in Tombstone. I mean, when you go to the OK Corral, something went down there, and it's because of all the violence and the unhappiness and the struggles that these people went through in that town. Mm-hmm. I mean, God, how many people alone died in a gunfight in Tombstone? I mean, and it's just, the air is so thick with all of that energy. When we went to the Birdcage Theater, I mean, you could just feel it in the air. And, I mean, we got evidence there, and it's just, you got a brothel, you got guys drinking, you got guys shooting each other, and, you're bound to either have residual or active manifestations there.
You did get some evidence. What did you guys get?
Well, we got I think we got some pretty odd audio. Mm-hmm. When we were downstairs in the poker room, there was this area underneath the stage stairs. I mean, you stuck your head in there, and all you smelled was the smell of death. It smelled like rotting bodies down there. Ooh. And it was just, it was gross. But, and we're thinking, are there people buried down here? Is this just like a phantom smell? Right. What is the smell? But, like down in the brothels, because they had their own little rooms where they would entertain the men, we got some interesting pictures, I think, in one of the rooms. And, I mean, there have been so many people that have gone there and taken pictures and just came up with some really odd stuff. Things that just shouldn't have been because it's just an empty room.
Right. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I thought we lost you. I've wondered to myself, just thinking, when you go into on a site like that and you do smell, people explain the smell of death or rotting corpses, is that them giving you a hint? I mean, is it they're manifesting in a way that's it's an an olfactory sense. So it's kind of like, this is how I can manifest. I'm not strong enough for her or him to hear me, so I'm going to manifest this scent. Maybe because they want closure. Do you think? I mean, is that why? Maybe.
It could be for a million different reasons. It could be they're trying to make communication, and that's the only way that they can. When we investigated the haunted hamburger in Jerome, it was a 2-story building, and we were going from the downstairs dining room up the stairs to where the kitchen area was. Mm-hmm. And we were going up the stairs, and see, when we go on investigation, the men don't wear cologne, the women don't wear perfume. Okay. And so we're walking up the stairs. Halfway up the stairs, we get this really, really strong odor of a woman's perfume. Mm-hmm. And if you went up the stairs, you lost it. If you went down the stairs, you lost it. It was only in that one spot where we smelled this perfume. Well, later on in the night, we found out that an apparition had been seen up on those stairs, right in the area where we smelled that. But then at the end of the investigation, everyone, including the owners, were outside. They locked up the restaurant and all that. And one of our investigators was taking pictures of the outside of the restaurant just, for a picture for the website, and we actually got a woman standing up in the window in the kitchen where there was actually a sink that ran right underneath that window. And there was no way that anybody of flesh and blood could be standing there in the window because there's one of those big, huge industrial sinks right under that window. So, and, she had been seen before. So is this the woman that we smelled on the stairs? Because that was the only way at that time that she could communicate with us. But, I mean, we come across phantom smells all the time.
Right.
Cigar smoke and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and, and if it's, for some reason, if it's a demonic entity, they like to communicate through smell with sulfur, rotten eggs, feces, urine, death, the really disgusting smells that,
well,
you would have.
Things that'll elicit a fear response because it seems they feed off of that. They enjoy that feeling of discomfort will emanate. They enjoy and they just relish that the fact that they're making us very uncomfortable and frightened. That's the impression I get.
And they feed off that fear. That's how they get stronger.
Right.
Is they feed off of that energy of fear that they know that they can cause by exposing themselves in that way.
Mm-hmm. So when you're on an investigation where you suspect a demonic presence, do you guys have to do you guys have like a pre-game thing where you guys get together and huddle up and say, okay, no fear, kind of a thing? I mean, do you guys ever do that? Do you have to like really try to control yourself?
Yeah, I mean, usually, if when I do all the interviews with the clients before we even go out there, and if we even think that, there's a demonic presence where any of the investigators are going to be harmed, we won't do the investigation.
Has that happened?
9 times out of 10, we don't find out that it's really bad news until after we're done with the investigation. Wow. But, if their activity is really negative or it's been hurting people, we go in there on, very defensively. We don't try to make it mad. We don't try to provoke it. Mm-hmm. All we do is try to get answers to what might be there.
Okay.
But, I mean, we had one case where I interviewed the client, and she totally neglected to tell me that she was practicing witchcraft, and she was doing these spells and all this junk. So when my investigators get to the house, my investigators start getting attacked left and right.
Wow. In what manner?
Like, well, if I had known that, I wouldn't have sent anybody to your house to investigate. That's your problem. You sealed it in your house. You take care of your own problem. Because we're not there to fix your stupidity. We're just there to try to get answers for you. But she had withheld so much information from me, and then she was changing her story constantly with the investigators the whole entire time they were there.
Okay. Now, you said that she'd practiced witchcraft. Now, in my understanding, I'm not like a Wicca expert by any means, but there's good and there's bad, there's positive and there's negative, right? So, I mean, would that have mattered if she said, no, I'm trying to do good things, I'm trying to do positive things? Would that have made a difference to you if she would have said that? Or did you get the impression that the things that she was doing were really like, gnarly, bad?
Well, you know what? I mean, unless you know what you're doing, whether you're trying to practice white magic or black magic, I mean, if you're trying to practice white magic and you're doing it all wrong, you're still going to screw yourself up.
Really?
Okay. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, if you're inexperienced and you're calling such and such to come and, help you get a job or whatever the hell they do, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, if you're not experienced and you don't know what you're doing, God only knows what you're going to bring through. It's no different than using a Ouija board.
Mm-hmm.
There's
a right and wrong way to do that, too.
Once you invite whatever, you have invited in, good luck getting rid of it, especially if you don't know what you're doing or how to close that portal.
Okay.
So if she had said she had practiced white magic, I still would have been very hesitant because obviously the activity she had in her house was very dark and very demonic. Mm-hmm. So that would tell me, you don't know what you're doing or you're lying to me.
Yeah.
We try to stay away from that stuff only because we all have families and we don't need to be bringing that stuff home to our kids.
Have you experienced that before? Have you ever brought anything home with you?
Well, that's a funny story. Not intentionally. When Frank and I were living up north, we had gone to the cemetery up by Jerome. It was old pioneer cemetery. And that's where a lot of the miners from the mines were buried, if they, died of natural causes or in the mines or whatever. So we're taking pictures. Ooh, scary, ooh. Well, we get home, and we go to bed, and in the middle of the night, Frank wakes me up, and he goes, "What is your problem?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I mean, I was sleeping hard. He goes, "You've been screaming at the top of your lungs in Chinese." Like, what are you talking about? Because I'll wake myself up if I start talking in my sleep, It's like, oh, what was that? So I'm like, "Frank, I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "Well, you've been screaming at the top of your lungs in Chinese. Knock it off." I'm like, "I'm sorry." So we go back to sleep, wake up in the morning. Frank's like, "Dude, that was really weird." Well, the next night it happened again. And he woke me up and he goes, "Lori, you're screaming in Chinese. What is going on?" I said, "Frank, I don't know. I'm dead asleep, and all I know is you're waking me up." And it had only happened that 2 nights. Now, there were a lot of Chinese miners and workers buried in that cemetery, along with Irish and, every other nationality, because they all headed out west,
sure,
to make their fortunes.
Right.
So that's the only time that anything has followed us home.
Interesting.
I mean, we were just taking pictures of a cemetery, so I don't know why I was so special that night, but it just happened that way. Mm-hmm. But like I said, after that second night, it never happened again.
Do you think that you're sensitive? Do you think is that why? Because a lot of people get drawn into this. I don't want to call it an industry, but this type of this type of thing, because they've had a lot of unexplainable things happen to them. That's why James and I do the Rabbit Hole, is because we've had so much weird stuff happen to us in our lives, and this kind of doesn't give us closure, but it answers some of our questions, brings up a whole lot of new questions. But is that why you got involved in all of this? Because you've experienced a lot of things in your life?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I never really experienced anything until I started investigating.
Oh, okay.
And and it was really weird. I've never lived in a haunted house when I was a kid, never got spooked, nothing, But when I started investigating, and I think it's just after you've done it for a while, you just become more in tune with whatever's out there. Mm-hmm. And I don't like to talk about it as far as I'm concerned, my brain and the way it works, but we've been on investigations where I had to start writing everything down that was popping into my head or names that I was getting, because 9 times out of 10, I was spot on in regards to what we were getting on EVP.
Okay.
And we were investigating, real quick, a bar in Kingman, and they were trying to figure out if this guy, Eddie, who had died, who was a regular at the bar, if he was the one, making things happen and all that. So we're going around and we're asking Eddie, are you here? Can you talk to us for us? Blah, blah, blah. Well, in my head, I kept getting, Albert. No, Albert's here. I'm Albert. I'm like, who's Albert? So I just wrote it down. I didn't tell Frank. I didn't tell anybody on the team. And after Frank started going through the audio, I brought up to him. I said, "Frank, when you talk to the owner at the bar, ask them who Albert is." And he goes, "Who's Albert?" And I said, "Just ask them who Albert is." So when he called the owner of the bar, he said, "Do you know an Albert?" And she goes, "Yeah, why?" And he goes, "Well, blah, 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 blah." And she goes, "Well, one of our bartenders, her husband, whose name was Albert, died in a motorcycle accident."
Wow.
Where the hell did I get Albert from?
Right.
So it's little things like that where it's stuff that I would not know in a million years.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think I was born psychic. I just think that after doing it for so long, you become more familiar or more in tune to what's around you. But it's happened to me enough times where I'm like, okay, this is weird. All right, I'll just live with it. But I don't go out there and say, "Oh, look at me, I'm psychic. I can," I don't do.
Well, it's a pretty
crap,
bold claim that a lot of people, I think, abuse and misuse and actually fool and trick people with. So I commend you for that.
Yeah.
But also, I think a lot of people. Go ahead.
No, I was done. It's just ridiculous. I'm not going to go out there and market myself as a psychic just because I can pick up on things.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot
anybody
of people
can pick up on things if they concentrate hard enough.
Right. That's what I was just saying is I think all of us have a little bit of that in us, some type of sixth, seventh sense, if you will, that can, if you tune yourself in or if you're cognizant of it, I think it can become stronger and you can get it a little more. And some people fool themselves with it too. You know what I mean? They'll fool themselves into thinking they're something they're not. But I do think that we all can kind of like a tuning fork, tune yourself into something, become a little more sensitive. I know for a fact it's happened to me.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I mean, I was in denial for 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't happening, you know. But after a while, you just can't deny it anymore, you know, especially because that's what I do on investigations. I take my own notes, and I don't even show them to Frank. And then if something comes through in evidence or an EVP or from the client, I'll look at my notes and say, oh, damn, I did it again, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I was, we still plan on coming down there and spend a little time with you guys, go on an investigation, and that'd be so cool. We're still going to do that for the documentary for the RabbitHole. But one place I if we go down there, I have to go to Tombstone. I'm a huge, I mean, gosh, Doc Holliday, you know,
yeah.
I mean, Wyatt Earp, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's.
Oh, I know. It's just there's just such a weird vibe down there. I mean, Boot Hill, you walk through there and you're like, God, how many people are following behind me right now that I can't see?
Right.
You know, it's just, I mean, and there have been reports, I mean, people be walking down the wooden sidewalks and they'll see somebody at the end dressed in period clothing and they're looking at them and they just disappear in front of their eyes.
Yeah, some people will think they're just like actors that are hanging out, you know, like wearing era clothing, like you're saying, but then they're gone, and it's like, whoa. I've heard of other people say that they'll hear like faint gunshots or something, you know. I've heard of people smelling powder, black powder, you know, from like firearms. I mean, I would love to experience something like that. It'd just be cool to be in the OK Corral and be like, this is where it happened. I mean, so
and
cool.
you know, the funny thing is was it McFly's photography is still there, where Josephine was having her naughty pictures taken at the time.
Yeah.
The bar where Morgan Earp was shot and killed in what was then a saloon, that's now a gift shop, but that's still there.
Wow.
You know, so you have all the original stuff is still there. All these things that happened that made Tombstone are still there, and to walk down those streets and just, you kind of, if you use your imagination, you can transport yourself back to 1888 when the gunfight happened and when Morgan was killed and, you know, the Birdcage Theater was hopping, you know.
Right. That'd be so awesome. Dude, wouldn't you love to do that, James?
Oh, yeah. I love, like, old Western-type towns, and I've been to a few in Oregon, and, yeah, I love that stuff.
It was such an emotionally charged time that the residuals got to be just thick with it, man. I'd love to go there. We're gonna do it for sure.
Well, it seems like ghost town. You know, that word rings true because of the residual energies that still exist in some of those areas.
Right.
We're
gonna have to hear some of your Tombstone material. Have Frank email me or something.
Yeah.
I want in on that. I'm so interested in that type of stuff. So do you guys have anything big going on right now? I asked Frank earlier. He said he's pouring over some audio and whatnot from the last investigation. Anything else?
Yeah, nothing really until you guys come out here.
Okay.
So far, anyway.
All right. Yeah,
but I mean, who knows? I mean, we can get a phone call next week, and you know, we're on the road again. But
yeah,
Channel 10 or Fox News, they did a piece on us a few weeks back. They wanted to do a story on the EVP, so the news crew came over here to our house, and we did an interview there, and then they said, hey, you know, we'd love to go on an investigation with you sometime. So I think we are working on one with another group in town to investigate a location in Globe, a historical location in Globe.
Mm-hmm.
The Gila County Jail. And I think that's, next month? Yeah, next month. So
cool.
We might tell the news station about that one and have them come along with us because they're itching to go.
Now, when you guys did the Lee Motel, you had, I think his last name was Archuleta. There was somebody there that...
Yeah, John Archuleta.
How long ago was that?
gosh, that was like 3 years ago. That was one of the Halloween specials we did for them, part of their Eerie Encounter series.
Yeah. Because
yeah, I think that was 3 years ago.
I talked to Frank when we were talking to Frank earlier. You pissed one of those spirits off because it said F. Lori. I mean,
Yeah.
what did you do? What did you do?
You know, I mean, we must be getting a great reputation in the spirit world because everybody's telling us to go pound sand. But
yeah,
it's just, you know, I mean, the Lee Hotel at one point, it was like a rehab house. You know,
yeah.
I don't blame them. They're, you know, they're detoxing. Of course, they're going to be pissed.
That's one of the things that really bothers me, Lori, is why are some people able to move on and wherever it is they go, you know, the great neither, you know, or ether or whatever, and why is it some people are stuck? Why is that? I mean, I'm not asking you like you have the answer because I don't know if anybody really does. But what's your educated guess so far? Because I'm sure you've contemplated this a lot.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, from what we can surmise, you know, some people they just don't want to go. They don't want to be dead yet. You know, they want to hang around.
So you don't think they know?
Others, they don't even. Well, yeah, I mean, others don't even know that they're dead. I mean, if somebody dies tragically, you know, like in a car accident, and they're like, whoa, what was that? You know, they may not know they're dead. People that commit suicide, they have regrets afterwards.
Okay.
You know, oh, my God, why was I so stupid to hang myself? You know, or they're afraid now that they've killed themselves. They're afraid to go in light because, you know, God's not going to be too happy with you. You know, so I think everybody has their own reasons why they go and why they stay. You know, some people feel like they have unfinished business.
Yeah.
We had an investigation in Tucson where as soon as we walked in, all I felt was this sadness and this, you know, just this loneliness. I couldn't shake it. If I left the apartment, I was fine. As soon as I go back in, just sadness, heaviness, loneliness, despair. Well, come to find out, this spirit, whose name was Robert, and we got that on an EVP, he was living in the client's walk-in closet. And so all the guys went into the bedroom with the door closed, and they're like, Robert, you know, just go into the light. And, you know, the husband, who I think was highly sensitive, in his mind, he was thinking that Robert was actually gay, and he was afraid to go into the light because, you know, in the Bible, God says don't be gay. And so he was afraid to go into the light. So the guys are talking, Robert, just go, you know, it's going to be okay. God loves everybody. He's just happy that you were able to love someone in this life. Just go, just go. Well, at the very end, we got an EVP of Robert saying, bye-bye.
Wow.
And then that was it. Yeah, and we have that on the website.
You know,
it says Robert.
That raises the theological issues too, which, you know, I personally have a lot of theological issues. That being said, I do believe in something after this for a fact. I just don't know if I'm on board with the whole organized religion thing. But the thing that is weird to me is I personally have never heard an EVP where anybody mentions God. I've never heard it. So it's like. Have you? I mean, I never have. I've never heard EVP said God is angry or something, or God help me, anything God. I've never heard it. Why is that? I mean, isn't that strange though? I mean,
yeah. Well, you know, and I mean, we've asked questions like that in our EVP sessions. You know, are you in heaven? You know, what's heaven like? You know, have you seen God? And we never get a response, so we don't know if we're like supposed to not know. You know,
right? Like, I mean, like that's breaking the rules. If everybody
was sure that there was heaven and paradise and God, people would be killing themselves left and right to just get up there. You know,
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're just not allowed to tell us or they're not able to tell us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've thought about that too.
But,
like,
you know,
like there's some kind of rule book, you know, or there's like they have this instantaneous understanding if they are aware that they have passed on. If they're aware that they passed on, it's almost like there's rules. It's almost like there's rules.
Right, and that's what Frank and I have been saying for a long time. There must be a set of rules that they have to go by, just like rules that we have to go by here. Their rules are they can't tell us about what's on the other side, what the afterlife is like. you know, and that's fine, you know, I'll figure it out someday when I go, but, you know, as far as, you know, hearing any of them say God or Jesus or Buddha or Allah, I mean, we've never heard any of that.
Yeah, you don't hear it. In fact, if anybody's out there listening, and if you have anything, I want it. I want to hear it. I'm not throwing down a challenge. Believe me, I want to believe there is something fantastic. I really do believe that, but I want to know that. And it seems like, I think we all do. We all want to know that our loved ones are somewhere awesome, you know, or people we care about, or, you know, even famous people that we're fans of, you know. You want to know that they're resting easy and they're happy and content and couldn't want for nothing. That's just a natural human want. But, again, I've never heard any confirmation on it. And it's always frustrated me when you hear an EVP with a child. Why would God allow such a thing? And, you know, my wife actually brought something up to me that made me kind of think. She said, well, that could be a demonic or evil presence making the sound of a child to draw and elicit that emotional response to make yourself vulnerable, to suck you in.
Yep. And that's exactly what we think half the time, too.
Oh, really? Okay, because I just thought, you know, my wife, she's not that into this stuff, you know what I mean? My crazy little rabbit hole world. But she makes some really good points and makes me think. I've never really looked at it that angle. But you guys also, you concur, you think that's kind of the case sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, because I would think that if there really is a God, which I believe there is, but, you know, not everybody does, so I'm being general here.
Right.
But if there is a God, would God really ever leave a child to wander this earth lost?
Right, just limbo.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just hard for me to believe. Now, as far as residual, yeah, there could be residual child voices all over the place. Okay, but when it comes to a child's spirit, you know, I'm more inclined to think that it's either, you know, just a regular nasty human spirit, or it's something more on the demonic side trying to trick you into trusting the fact that you're dealing with a child when you're really not. Because we all trust kids. Kids are innocent, they're pure, they're not going to try to hurt you.
Right.
You know, so if you hear, or if you even see a 6-year-old spirit standing, you know, at the end of a hallway, what are you going to do? You're going to start walking towards that child, because you want to help that child.
Well, right, it's in our nature. It's in our nature
to know that we're not just being sucked in.
Right, it's in our nature, especially for females to, you know, because let's face it, women are more nurturing than men, 99.9% of the time. So that it would elicit that emotional, oh, honey, come here, I'll help you, and you open yourself up, and then the next thing you know, you're taking something home with you didn't really want to.
Exactly. And, you know, that's like when we got that EVP of that child screaming at our one client's house. You know, if either I or the homeowner had heard that, we would have tore that house apart looking for the screaming child.
Right.
You know, because we're moms. Why would we not go and try to save this child? But the thing is, we didn't hear a thing, and there were no kids in the house. Mm-hmm. You know, so was it residual? Possibly.
Right, the old time, the old time loop recording thing that just keeps on playing over and over and over.
Yeah, and you know, and sometimes it's hard to know if you're dealing with an intelligent haunting or a residual haunting.
Right.
It's really hard to tell.
Right. So that's where I have trouble is I've thought of that too. You know, hearing child screaming, crying, or saying things or whatever that could be residual. It's the intelligent responses that you get in a child's voice that just breaks my heart. And again, I don't know if I'm just opening myself up, or if in fact it is an intelligent response from a child spirit. Because God, I hate to think that. I just hate to think that.
Yeah, that's just sad, because there's no reason why a child should be lost like that. They should just go wherever they're meant to be. And that should be the end of it.
Right.
You know, I'll take on any adult spirit any day of the week, but you throw a child in there, and I'm just going to become a bowl of Jello.
Right.
You know, it's my estrogen kicking in. You know?
Right. Well, it's natural. Right. I mean, I get it. I mean, that's just the way it is. And Even on these big shows, like the Ghost Adventures team, and when they hear children, you can tell that Zach and them, they're kind of like, oh, wow. You can tell it bums them out, but then they'll turn around and use a Jacob's ladder the size of the pod from the movie The Fly, and you wonder how much damage they're doing, and I have to wonder if they're aware of it, that they're hurting them. Because again, I've never heard of anybody saying that you got an intelligent response from a spirit saying that it hurts, except for from your guys' team.
Yeah, and we do have that on audio. It hurts. Turn it off.
Oh, she even said turn it off?
Oh, yeah, they've told us turn it off. It hurts. Turn it off. And the sad thing is, we don't know that they're saying this until after the fact.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, sorry, didn't hear you.
Yeah,
right after you're sitting there.
After you're sitting there for an hour, and it's just like just frying them for an hour, and then you're
exactly.
Then you feel
I know, I was
guilty.
like, whoops.
I'm sorry.
But that's how we learn is through these EVP. I mean, when we get these really good, solid EVP, man, it's just like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get two of them talking to each other about us, it's like, whoa, where were they? We didn't see them, but apparently they saw us. Right.
Well, what if it's I've thought of this too. What if it's dimensional stuff? What if we move on and we just are? It's kind of like a reincarnation, quasi multiverse thing, and they're doing a EVP session and they're picking your voices up. What I mean?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. I mean,
they're tripping out on you guys too.
What if they're in a different dimension? They're occupying the same space as us, whether it looks the same or not.
Right.
And they hear our voices, but they can't see us. And they're like, what the hell?
Right.
Or it's just happening to that point in time.
Where are these voices coming from?
Right. So it's just, that's what's so cool about doing what we do is it makes you think. I think it was Max Planck, in his words, he said, the universe is not as strange as we imagine. The universe is stranger than we can imagine. And I have to agree with that. And science is even tripping out. They're basically coming down to where they're proving scientifically that there is a multiverse, not a universe, but a multiverse. So that suggests dimensions. I mean, it's scientifically proven now, pretty much.
Well, and I told Frank, I said, how do we know that on some of these investigations that these whatever you want to call them, these different dimensions or whatever, it's the reason that we're picking stuff up is because maybe one dimension is like crossing in front of the other one and it overlaps a little bit, and we're there at that right exact time where we're able to pick up something that is in this different dimension, but our timing is just totally right on, and we catch it right at that moment on our audio recorders.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
also,
the universe blows my mind enough, and then I'm thinking about all this too, and I'm like, okay, stop,
but
it's just something
I will
I
actually sometimes make myself
ponder.
dizzy. Yeah, I'll make myself dizzy thinking about stuff sometimes, like my brain shorts out. What was that, James? What was that? What is it, the perineal gland? Is that what?
The penile gland.
Wait a minute.
Well, they call it they basically call it the pine cone gland because it's got a little bit of a pine cone shape to it. But supposedly that's the area that is where the soul resides, where our spirit energy is set in there, and that's a sacred thing that you see on the Catholic Church has large staffs with this pine cone thing on it, and it's the pineal gland, or it's however.
I'm pretty sure it's not penile gland.
Well, it's similar to that.
Right.
But it's like a pine cone, so they call it the pine cone gland.
Right, and that's more active when we sleep, from my understanding. When we're sleeping, that becomes more active. And I've thought about dreams. Now, we've all had dreams where we are somebody else, and there's no explanation for that. I'm very comfortable being who I am, but I have had dreams where I was a woman. I've had dreams where I was different men. I have had dreams where I was different ethnicities. And these dreams are so profoundly real to me. And I have jobs. I have families. I mean, and I'm like totally cognizant in these dreams, and that stuff is happening, and it's totally normal to me. Again, I'm totally content with who I am and where I'm at in this life, but I've had those dreams. Now, I've wondered if that has anything to do with the pineal gland, that spirituality, and it kind of intersecting into these cross dimensions. So when we sleep, maybe we're just more open to, these alternate lives we live in. Maybe that's what some of those dreams are. You're actually experiencing yourself on another dimension. Did I lose everybody here?
I mean, that sounds possible to me.
But have you ever had a dream like that, Lori, where you were somebody else?
Yeah. I've had dreams where I've been a man.
Yeah.
And I've been with my wife, and again, I'm very comfortable with myself. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I have had dreams where I was a man. I had a family. I had a wife. A house. And I wake up. I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Right. Right.
But I just kind of chalked it up to being a dream. I wasn't going to, pursue it any further than that. But, I mean, it does make sense. I mean, who knows? Maybe, all your past lives are stored in that little gland, and every once in a while they just resurface, and you're just more confused than when you went to bed,
Right.
But,
that's how this research is too, though. This type of stuff. I mean, it just seems to bring up more questions than answers, and they're all important too. I think they're questions that need to be asked and they need to be pursued. But gosh, who knows if God only knows if we're ever going to get any of these answers in this life about what you guys do. I mean, I'm glad you're out doing what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what science has always been about, asking the big questions and then trying to figure them out.
Right.
I mean, that's the whole scientific mindset. I mean, look at Einstein. He's looking up saying, I wonder what the theory of relativity is. Let me figure that one out, And it all started with a question.
Right.
Well, also, too, when you talk about spirits coming in and you get, like, sulfurous smells, that also occurs in a lot of abductee cases where they contest smelling that sulfurous smell. So it seems like it's something that charges the air, however they're coming in, which would support the idea of coming in from another dimension.
Right. Well, I've also heard of that sulfuric smell in Bigfoot sightings. Mm-hmm. You hear they still say, it smell like a big dirty. That's why they refer to it as a skunk ape in Florida, for instance. It's like a skunky, dirty, gross, kind of rotty smell. But then I've heard people describe it as sulfuric as well. So there is definitely some kind of connection there, for sure. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It's an unpleasant smell.
Right.
But I just that demonic stuff really freaks me out. I'm totally down for going investigation, but when it comes,
it's hard to battle.
Yeah, the demonic stuff. I mean, that's like because you have to educate yourself on that type of thing. And be honest with you, I'm not educated on demonology.
Not only that, but you have to protect yourself, in sort of a spiritual armor,
right?
Per se, to go in before.
Oh
you do something
you need
like
to go
that.
in armed.
How do you guys do that? I mean, do you guys take like crucifix, or I mean, how do you protect yourself? Is it just a thought, a feeling, or are you physically wearing
I go in
something?
like a zombie apocalypse.
Crossbows.
We've got holy water, holy oil, crucifix, Bibles. We each say our own personal little prayer before we even look at the location. And what we do is we just solely rely on our faith.
Okay.
And it's like, what, God's got my back. And Jesus has got my front, and I got an angel on each side. Let's just do it, And the thing is, it's like these demonic, whatever you want to call them, they know who's weak and whose faith is really strong, and they know who they can mess with and who they can't. And I really believe that that's why that every time we've been in a situation where it's quite possible that it was a demonic presence, our faith is the only thing that saved us in certain situations.
All right. That's scary.
And it's very scary because, like I said, that one lady that had the cauldron and everything under her bed with all of her little candles, we had no clue. Mm-hmm. And Frank's brother, Gino, he ended up getting attacked and pushed to the ground. He couldn't get up. another investigator started getting choked. They had to pull her out of the house.
Well, Gino's kind of a big dude, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a big dude. Yeah, but Angie was the one that was being choked.
Yeah, my cousin Angie, I remember her talking about that. It scared the hell out of her.
Yeah, it scared the hell out of everybody because all of a sudden Angie just can't breathe. You know, and Gino, I mean, Gino is a big, big dude, and I mean, he could not get up off of his knees. He said there was something pushing him down to the ground. And then even after he got up, he felt there was something on his back, just like laying across his back.
Wow.
And it took him, probably like 2 or 3 weeks before he actually felt normal again.
And what were the residual effects? What do you mean felt normal? What was going on with him? Did he feel drained?
His back was hurting him. His energy was drained. He couldn't focus. He couldn't concentrate. He was just a mess.
Messed with his chakras.
Wow.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Exactly. That's probably exactly what it was.
See, that's demonic. Then I can't imagine that being just a physical manifestation of a formerly human spirit. That sounds like something new it was doing. That was an attack.
Yeah. Well, human spirits. I mean, they're limited to what they can do. Demonic, they're way, way more powerful. Way more powerful.
Yeah.
So you kind of know what you're dealing with when things start happening. If something picks up a table and throws it across the room at you, that's not a human spirit. That's a demonic spirit. That's something that's been around for 1,000 years and knows how to use its energy to its best advantage.
Yeah. Hey, when we do an investigation with you, let's not go to a demonic one.
You don't want to go?
No, I'm
okay with cowboys and
yeah, it's just cowboys and stuff like that. I'm on bar fights. I'm all okay about
the brothel. We'll hit the brothel.
Yeah, I'm not down with the demonology. That's too.
Or we could take you to the brothel in Wickenburg that we did, where Frank's crotch got thumped.
Yeah,
that might be a good time.
He mentioned that, and there were some of those girls said some pretty illicit things, EVPs, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah. And Gino, something was stroking Gino's mustache.
That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, the girls were out in full force that night. Let me tell you.
Wow.
And so it's just funny because sometimes you get stuff like that, and then sometimes you get attacked and choked, and you're just like, "Whoa, what happened?" And you never really know what you're going to get when you go out on an investigation.
Right.
Right.
Just do your homework so I don't get attacked by a demon.
We'll sage smoke you. We'll give you the sage smoke. We'll Cleveland sage you.
Right. Well, here's another thing, Lori, that we talked about when we were talking about basically herding negative spiritual energy out of a home. Can you explain to the listeners how that works? How you explain it to me?
Yeah, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
All right.
Basically, what you do is the way that you're supposed to do it. Okay, this is the Native American way. You're supposed to get an abalone shell, you put sage in there, you set it on fire and let it start smoking, and then what you do is you start at the far end of the home. You open up like a door or a window in one side of the home. You go to the opposite side of the home. I know. So what you do is you light the sage and the abalone shell, and then you have an eagle feather, and you fan the sage smoke in every corner of the room, and you start in the back of the room and you head towards the door. You go through that door, you start smudging every corner down the hallway. You do every room, every closet, and what you're doing is you're working your way from the back of the house to the very front of the house to either an open door or an open window, because that pushes all the negative energy out that final opening in the house, and that's supposed to rid the home of any negative, nasty energy that's there.
Now, opening the doors of physical doors and windows, that's mostly symbolic. Is that correct?
Right.
Because
that's more
they
of
can
a
go in and out.
thing.
Okay.
Just because you want to make sure that they just get pushed out and you're not counting on them being ghosts and just going through a wall, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, but, that's how I smudge a house. I start at the very far end with the door opened at the other far end of the home, and I work my way from the back all the way to the front to that opening, and that is the symbolic ritual, and you just push all the negative energy out of the house,
Now,
or out of the building, or wherever you're working.
that particular technique you just described, the eagle feather, abalone shell, and the sage, that sounds Native American, is it? I mean, where does that?
Yeah, that is Native
okay.
American. Yeah.
Okay. Now, does that matter? Because some people are Catholic, some people are just, they're Pentecostal, other people are, Methodist or whatever. Does that
the intention?
Yeah, does just the intention alone, is that enough? Even if it's not something that you might necessarily believe in,
Yeah, well, it's the intention of the person doing it.
Okay.
Okay, if the person that's doing it truly believes that this is going to it's all your mental state of mind when you're doing it.
Okay.
Because, I mean, they can sense if you're just, hokey baloney, or if you're really serious about what you're doing.
You can't just go through the motions.
No. No, you have to believe. And I'll tell you, if I could study under a Native American shaman, I would take that opportunity in a heartbeat. I have so much respect for their ways and how they deal with things. Yeah. I just go move to the res.
Right.
Teach me.
Right.
Because, I mean, they have proven over and over and over again that their methods work.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So when I smudge a house, I try to do it as close as I can. If I don't have an abalone shell, okay, well, the intent is still there. Mm. But I still do it the same way every single time.
Will that work on a demonic presence, or is that just for, like, spiritual type cleansing?
No, you can try it, but probably all you're going to do is piss it off, honestly.
Yeah.
If there's a demonic, the only way that you're going to get rid of a demonic presence, if you're lucky, is to call in church.
Okay.
And you'd have to have an exorcism done either on the person that's attached to or the area that it's occupying.
Man, how do you make? How do you make that determination?
Hmm?
How do you make the determination if it's the person or if it's the? Besides the obvious, vomiting pea soup and head spinning around. I mean, how do you determine if it's the person or the location?
I leave that to the priest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just leave that to the priest. I mean, if just through my interview alone, I can get because I've been doing them for so long, I can get a pretty good idea of what's going on in the house before I even step foot in there.
Okay.
So if I even think that there's a demonic presence there and it's attached to a person or the area, call the church.
Yeah.
Start with the church first, because now that the Catholic Church is more open to ghosts and demons and aliens, I think they're going to be more receptive now than they were, say, 10 years ago when they just denied everything.
Mm-hmm. Right. James and I have talked about that a lot, too. We've talked about how they're looking to the heavens. And, James, what is the name of their observatory?
Lucifer.
Isn't that interesting? Why is that?
Huh.
Why is that? Because he was the first angel? Even that I don't understand why you would go that direction. Why is that? We'll name our observatory Lucifer, the opposite of God. And
yeah, there's a lot of theories out there. Things that I've heard that I'm just still not quite sure. You hear a lot of people coming forward with supposed, information of truth, Bible stuff that, dates way back, that we have a misconception of the reality between God, Jesus, and Satan, of how it actually is.
Are you talking like the ancient aliens theory? Well,
not necessarily ancient aliens theory, but there's certain people that have stated or claimed that the bloodline of Satan and Jesus are combined, and some of these high up echelon royals have a combination of both bloodlines. From my understanding, it's just stuff that
theory.
It's things that people have contested to, and whether that's true or not, I can't confirm nor deny. So
right.
Yeah.
You think you have a tough time explaining your craft. That's just one aspect. We dive into a little bit of everything, so it's like
it gets crazy.
Our heads spin on a regular basis. Believe me. No pea soup though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I've blessed homes. I don't make it a practice to do that because I don't want to screw up anybody's lives because the client has to live there. I don't. Mm. But if I think that it's benign enough, I will go through and bless a home. Sometimes I've had success. Sometimes I've had success for a few months, and then it comes back. So, the low-key, nasty, was miserable in life and now he's miserable in death guy I can handle.
Mm-hmm.
But anything above that, I tell them either contact your church, have them hold Mass in your home, have them bless your home, and bless you. Get rebaptized if you have to. I don't care. But anything higher than that, as far as demonic or anything else, then you need to contact, somebody in the Catholic diocese, because the Catholic Church is going to want proof before they even consider your case.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll hand over everything that we've gotten to the Catholic Church if need be. And say, here, this is your problem now. I'm out of here. I'm not even going to mess with this.
Right.
And then the Catholic Church can take it from there. But like I said, I'm an ordained minister, but I'm not a cardinal or, anything like that. So.
Right.
Well, that's a separate training all in itself too on what
exorcism.
Right, on exorcism. I know that they're trying to indoctrinate more priests to do exorcisms because it's becoming so common to have to utilize the technique. So.
Right, and then at that point...
don't they have to go through 2 or 3 years of training, exorcism training or something like that through the Vatican or something?
Well, they also need a lot of psychology because sometimes you're dealing with a psychosis and not a demonic presence or something like that. You're just dealing with someone who's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, And they have to,
exactly.
They have to be able to make
them too.
yeah, they have to be able to make that determination. So they have to have a lot of psychology and along with the demonology, and they have to understand names and all that kind of thing. Because I guess that's what they do. They try to draw the name of the demonic presence, and then that gives them more power.
Yeah.
Well, like the power of attention.
And somebody that's not qualified too, they start calling out those names. They're in for a world of hurt. Because then you're just conjuring up stuff.
Right.
Well, like we were talking with the power of attention, they've done experiments where they've, because of the intention technique, they've been able to change the energy or structure of water just by...
I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty interesting in itself.
It is.
Oh, that was amazing. It was that guy out of Tokyo or whatever.
Right.
I can't even try to pronounce his name, but yeah, I watched all of his stuff on YouTube and documentaries and stuff, and that was just fascinating.
So I guess it it comes down to, like you said, the intent. Whether you're using holy water, whether you're using running crow feathers or whatever that
And you have to believe in what you're doing.
Right.
Truly believe in it.
Jedi magic you want to use.
Right.
To rid the home.
Right.
But I guess that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, and to be honest, sometimes you do kind of feel like you got to get your Jedi on, and it's just, and it's weird because I was trying to cleanse the house one time, and the whole right side of my body was so flipping hot. I'm like, what is going on? I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the power of God. I don't know what, but it's like the whole right side of my body was just on fire. And the left side was perfectly cool and fine.
Are you right-handed?
And
are you right-handed?
Yeah.
So maybe you tapped into something. I think that because my understanding is if you're right-handed, you're left-brained. So maybe you were tapping into something that maybe that's exactly what you were doing. We are capable of doing so much more than we think or that we know. I've said it a million times on the show. We're a species with amnesia. We've forgotten who we really are, how old we are, how long we've been around, what we're about. And I think sometimes we accidentally or intentionally tap into something that we forgot we knew how to do. That might be in fact what you've done.
And the other thing that kind of weirded me out, I was blessing a house one time, and I got really short of breath. I could not catch my breath for nothing the whole time I was doing it. It was like I was being suffocated. I'm like,
wow.
What in the world? I didn't stop because whatever it was wasn't going to win. So I just kept on going and going and going. And then when I was done and I went outside, then I was a lot better.
Wow.
But I don't know what that was, but that was kind of weird because I'm like, am I going to stop breathing or can I really muster through this and get done with it?
Right.
But the thing is, it's like you have to let it know that you're stronger than whatever is trying to affect you.
Right, you got to do a mental gut check, you know?
Yeah, it's like, you know, you can't let it win. You can't let it know that you're scared. You know, you have to focus on what you're doing and just keep on chugging until you're done. Otherwise, it wins, you lose, and everything you just went through was for nothing.
Right. Well, we're going to wind this thing down, Lori. Gosh, we really appreciate you and Frank coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Lori Marshall. She's the co-founder of the Arizona Paranormal Research Society down there in Arizona, and we thank you for your time. And
thank you.
I think everybody got a lot out of this. I mean, pretty instructional. I learned a lot.
Well, it just
Good.
There's always new questions that come up every time
Mm-hmm.
you dive into this subject, and it's still in its infancy, even today.
Right.
So.
Right.
Right.
I can't
Well,
wait
you
to
know,
see.
and the thing is, you know, no matter who you talk to, you're always going to get a different perspective because everybody's had different experiences doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they go at it at different angles too, you know. And it sounds like you guys do.
Right.
You guys have a lot of your experimental, prototypical type of electronic devices and stuff. And there's not a whole lot of people doing that right now. But it sounds like you guys are kind of cutting edge R&D department.
We're
doing
trying.
Next level.
Next level. All right, thanks, Lori. Again, this is
All right,
Lori
thank you,
Marshall.
John.
Hey, you keep in touch, and we'll let you know when we can get together and do something cool together down there, and not demonic though.
No demonic.
We're going to the brothel.
No.
Yeah, we'll go to the brothel. I don't mind
keep you
smelling
safe.
perfume. All right, thanks, Lori. You take care of yourself.
All right, thanks, John.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was a good one.
I'm gonna have to grow a mustache.
A long one too, like a Wyatt Earp.
That's right. Get the curl going.
Handlebars. I'll look like the guy, the Planter's Peanut guy or whatever. Or no, the Monopoly guy. Mustache.
Monopoly.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and take a quick little break here. Come back. We'll wrap this puppy up. You're in the rabbit hole. John Fogel and James Sweet, KouvRadio.com. Welcome back, everybody. That was awesome, dude. I so love talking to Frank and Lori. It's an educational experience.
I just want to go. We just got to get some tickets and go.
I know, dude. I want to go bad. I want to check that.
Just a weekend, man. We can do it.
Yeah, we will. We're gonna. I mean, I want to do the Tombstone thing, dude. That's huge to me.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
That's what I want to do. I want to go where Wyatt Earp was and Bat Masterson and you know, all that history. There's so much history there, and I think it's super important that we check that stuff out.
Mm-hmm. I'm in.
It's gonna be as right as gravy on biscuits,
right as grease on bacon.
Which I had today. My wife made me an awesome breakfast today. So, what left you? What impacted you most out of that whole conversation? What are you running away with personally, James Sweet? With that, what you learned tonight?
Well, you know, I think it's important, especially for, you know, amateur people out there that go into this field, that they do need to take some sort of caution. They do need to find some sort of spiritual armor or you know, some precautionary measure, because you don't know what you're getting into necessarily. Right. And I know there's a lot of people, especially with the popularity of this field, people trying to get involved and you know, be the next Ghost Adventure type people with their cameras and putting stuff on YouTube. And you got to be really careful, because these people are pretty experienced. I mean, everybody has a first time, of course. Mm-hmm. But you know, word to the wise, when you have dealt with this type of phenomena for a number of years, like Frank and Lori have, you can learn from them and start off right.
Right. Well, I mean, a friend of ours who's in the Ghost Adventures crew, Aaron Goodwin, we were just hanging out with a couple of weeks ago. Oh my God! That it affected his marriage. I mean, it affected his life.
Well, even Nick, I believe, has had stuff come home. So,
you know, they kind of dove in. I think they've learned from it. And you can even see now, if you watch their show, that their approach is a little different now. Well,
it's just like any field. You got to really be careful. I mean, you get in the ufology field, you can't be 1 foot out, 1 foot in. I mean, you're getting your feet wet if you really
in or out, sucker,
want to dive into this. And you just got to be careful.
Right. Well, I think we're going to be wrapping this puppy up. I want to thank Lori Marshall and Frank Madrid from the Arizona Paranormal Research Society for spending a couple hours with us. As always, it was a pleasure. I hope everybody enjoyed the show, man. I did. Had a good time. Mm-hmm. And next week, what is today? Today's the 17th. Yeah. So on the 24th, James and I are going to be doing a sit-down with somebody, a Bigfoot witness, and hopefully we'll have some material for you. We're going to be with him next Sunday and with Cousin Tony. And we'll see what we can bring in interview.
Yeah.
So you guys can listen to that. That'll be interesting. Good stuff, dude. Real Oregon Bigfoot material. In the meantime, keep your ear to the ground and your eye to the sky, and be good, man. Be well. From the Rabbit Hole. Take care.
Peace.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland.
It's the question that brought me.
And I showed you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
It's the question that brought me.
You stay in Wonderland.
It's the question that
And I
brought
showed
me.
you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I didn't say it would be easy.